So in Dusk Till Dawn, us Boltyn players gained a pair of Majestic 0/3 red tools, both of them charged, with an effect granted if a yellow was specifically charged to them. Not being yellow themselves, though, was a bit of a challenge, right? And even more was the fact that they, at least from my view, felt a little underwhelming in power. But now enter the new card, Battlefield Beacon, which is an expansion slot Majestic from Super Slam. A yellow 0/3 that itself does not charge, and an effect that rewards for, at least at a basic level, having utilized Boltyn's Go Again. So is this Chane ender here enough to move the needle for Boltyn, or will it fall into mediocrity like its previous red cousins? A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, my flesh and blood friends. Welcome back to the channel, and a special shout out to my Boltyn mains out there. Maybe not even mains, because, you know, there's us who've been trying to make them work for years. We've had to take some time off. So I should say Boltyn stands. I think that's the way to go. So I want to talk Battlefield Beacon today. So this is the new card out of Super Slam. And it's obviously a Boltyn card, or at least it is for now, right? We will see when the next set comes out, if we get a new Boltyn or if we get somebody else. But either way, right now, this is very clearly meant to be a Boltyn Chane ender. It is multi-modal, and usually when we see that in this game, we're like, oh, right, very intriguing. But this one is, we're going to talk a bit today. You can see I have PTI style, right? We'll go down and talk kind of in order to at least keep me on track. But this one's interesting, and I'm not totally sold on it, especially because Boltyn doesn't have like a lot of room in his deck anymore, right? I think people out there know what I'm talking about, right? Like at some point, you just kind of have like a formulaic deck, right? And it doesn't give you a lot of surprise factor. But maybe the fact that this is yellow opens up some alternate playstyles, but let's get into it. So Battlefield Beacon is a 0-drop. Of course, it defends 3, because why wouldn't it? But it's a 0-drop yellow that attacks for 3. Okay, now that itself is pretty notable, and that's why I was referencing the 0/3 reds in the intro, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you do notice that this itself is not an attack that charges. Okay, so when this attacks, choose 1 for each card you've banished from your soul, this Chane. You may choose the same mode up to 3 times. Now that statement is very important, because if it wasn't there, we would only be able to choose each one once. That's just a basic in the rules, that you can only choose each thing once. So thankfully we have that clarification. So we could create upwards of 9 tokens. I mean, let's be honest, that's not going to happen. But this is very, very, very interesting it doesn't have to be a Chane ender to be clear, but again, functionally, because it's looking for cards banished, you would want to do it at the end of a Boltyn Chane, right? Because it wouldn't count itself. So to set the stage for this, I kind of want to put this in context from a value standpoint of its color and attack versus what I will call the Boltyn base package. So you see that across your screen right now. Its cards we're very familiar with from back in the day. Bolt of Courage is a 0/3, Engulfing Light's a 0/3. Both of them let you charge, and if you do, you have some sort of effect. And to be clear, on Bolt of Courage and Engulfing Light, they only look if you've charged this turn, not to them, which is relevant for our 0/3s we'll talk about later. Okay. Express Lightning is a 0/4 that does the same thing as the previous 2, but it has no effect, so hence the value from that. And then you have Illuminate, which is not a charge card, but if it hits, it goes into Soul. So that kind of forms the overall base package, so to say, right? So what you would expect for Battlefield Beacon being a yellow, if it charged, would have been a 0/2. But since it doesn't charge, that's really, I believe, where you're getting this. So, you know, in the overall curve of things, this on the surface seems pretty on curve with everything, right? To say, right, effect be damned, as it may be, this seems right in line with what we'd expect. Now let's go ahead and head on over to Spirit of War and Beckoning Light, the 2 cards I referred to out of Dusk Till Dawn. So these 2 are both 0/3 reds. So yes, in line with the previous 2 0/3s we saw. But as an additional cost to play it, you may charge. and if a yellow card was charged this way. So to these two cards in particular, it has to be charged to this card. It's not like the previous two that we talked about where it was if you've charged this Chane. Actually, was it Chane or turn? Either way, it's if you charge this turn, excuse me. But you get me, right? So these are, for being Majestics, these two cards, right? Let's be honest, okay? Could have been better. Now they have an effect, but again, now it has to be a yellow card, but these cards themselves are red. So I've said this many times before, y'all get it. I think most of you are on board. These cards either, in my opinion, should have been yellow, or they should have been 0/4s at the Majestic level. That is my opinion. I get it. They're scared of Boltyn. I get it. But I still think these should have been. So bringing us back then to Battlefield Beacon as a chain ender, because I do believe that's where we're using it, right? So the best one here is Courage Token. And the reason, in my opinion, is Courage Token. Now, there's a very good argument for Vigor Token as well for opening up some other play lines. But the Courage Token's the big thing because remember what Boltyn does, right? Is if you are above, you can do his thing, right? So coming in at a above attack means that you always have that turned on and you're not dependent on blocks in some constrained situation, right? That's why Boltyn plays snappy sometimes, is to be able to like Saber Lumina combo one, you often play snappies, or now you've got the boost, you can stuff the quicken and stuff. I get it, right? But conceptually, you understand what I'm driving at, is they play something with which to try and give go again, as opposed to setting it up with like a +1, okay, which you can do again with this Courage Token. So I think that one's very good. Now, obviously, you can choose multiple with this, but functionally, do you really, like, having 2 Courage Tokens is fine, but from the effect you're trying to get of it of just being above, right, you really only need the one from a gameplay effect standpoint. I'm saying, right, value is value, I get that part, right? But from a gameplay effect standpoint, you really just need it to be above so you can do the thing, right? So I think that one's really good. Now, the Vigor Token is really, really, really interesting because it opens up like some Take Flight plays, right? Take Flight was kind of an OG card, not kind of, it was an OG card that I believe today I'm still playing the yellow. I don't know if that's true or not. I'd have to go actually look through my deck, my physical deck. I'm pretty sure I'm still playing the yellow Take Flight, but you know, you look at Via the Vanguard that needs 1, or you even have options like Valiant Thrust, Battlefield. Oh shoot, I forget. But it's the one where the angel or the girl's holding the thing. It's the great art. I'll put it up here, right? That's also a 1. It gets go again if it comes in, right? Yeah, costs 1. So that really opens up some potential plays with the Vigor, or to be fair, it can, you know, start the Vigor train. Depending on the chess piece you're playing, it can start the Vigor train. I don't think you're playing that with him, but starting the Vigor train, why not? Seems good. So I do think those are the two, you know, toughness. You love to get extra value out of your blocks, considering most of the time you're blocking 1. That seems to make sense to me. That one does seem like the least of the 3, but it also seems like the one that you probably, like, I don't know how many times you need 2 Vigors even with Boltyn. I guess if you have some like weird Via the Vanguard and Valiant Thrust in your hand at the same time, I suppose. But I don't know how often you'd need 2 Vigors with Boltyn, right? I think you feel me. But I think that's where you dump the rest. So you probably go Courage. Well, depending on what you have in your, right, depending on what you got coming, you probably go Courage, then Vigor, and then just dump into Toughness is probably the way that you end up playing this the vast majority. I'm not saying there's not edge cases out there, right? But I think that's where you end up going here most of the time. But I also, if we're being realistic, thinking about the multimodalness of this, you're probably in, outside of edge cases like Celestial Cataclysm or something like that, you're probably looking at 2, maybe 3, but you're probably looking at 2 on this, right? I mean, just think about it functionally, right? You Via the Vanguard, charge 2, do your thing, give it go again, or Via the Vanguard, charge 2, give it go again, swing, give it go again, and then Battlefield Beacon, right? So that would be a net neutral turn, and you'd get 2 off of that, right? Now, sure, there's situations where you can, Beacon of Victory, and, maybe you go Cray Town on Beacon of Victory and then give it go again into this. Doesn't seem like an optimal play, but you never know. You never know. Now, the next one that I'm very interested in here is Prayer of Bologna. So back in Dusk Till Dawn days, which was like, over 2 years ago at this point, right? I was convinced Prayer of Bologna was going to be a really good card, and I really played around with it quite a bit. But you also had kind of the red problem that we referred to above. And I think you're still going to have the red problem, but you might be able to, there may be like a yellow type package here, or at least significantly increasing the number of yellows that we have here to try and make Prayer of Bologna work. You have to be probably what, like 80% yellow? It's probably about right. Right? Let me know in the comments if you think that's, I haven't done the math. I'm just guesstimating. It's probably around the 80% range. Maybe I don't think you want to be 70. I think you want to be higher. So like 80, yeah, probably a little higher than 80 to make it work, to be, kind of guaranteed on that. Our brutes can probably tell us honestly actually, that's a fair comparison, because if you think about what brutes usually like to run, like a Kayo, right? Like 5 or 6. That's what they kind of want to do. So by that same, I don't know that this is as essential as a miss in brute, but it's probably about in that range. So maybe like 9. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Now, I do think that there's something there, right? Maybe not yet, but I think there's some potential there. It's kind of like an alternate build, because I keep coming back to this thing of like, if you're running 3 of these, like, doesn't your deck just kind of end up being pretty cookie cutter, and then like the smart kids are just gonna like know exactly what you have at all times? That's kind of what I'm worried about here. That's where my head is. Okay. Now, we do have Cataclysm, which I still think you run. Cataclysm isn't, I don't know. Granted, with the equipment, you are getting it, at least I find myself getting it more these days with the equipment, to be fair, especially the headpiece. I love the backfill, right? So maybe you do end up, Cataclysm and going again into Battlefield Beacon and the 1-2-3 it. Maybe. Luminalance, I still don't think Luminalance is, I don't run that. I don't think it's worth running Luminalance in Boltyn, because vast majority of the time there's only 2 on there that you care about, because you already have Boltyn's ability, right? So again, that kind of falls back into my like, 2 is the loneliest number. I mean, it's not lone. Well, it's probably the number you're going to be dealing with, I think. Okay. Now, let's talk the reality of this card. So it is... my comment there is setup heavy. It's not really setup heavy, but this isn't something that like you want multiples of in your hand at the same time. Granted, it can always block. We get it. But you have to, like I said, you want to at least get 2 out of this. I think you want to get 2 out of this to really be worth playing in a non-mono yellow type build. And I use mono yellow with air quotes, right? But in a non-yellow build, I think probably in order to have this become worth a slot, I don't know, I question if even 2 is enough. I mean, the ability to create the courage token is pretty good. So I think you do end up running this card, and I'm definitely going to try it. I mean, like I said, I tried Prayer Bologna, it didn't work. We'll try this. We'll see if it works or not. I think this one's worth it though on the courage token. Maybe even the vigor token, like maybe Take Flight makes a resurgence. I don't know. It's always nice to set up a V, but again, so you have to set up into this, and then it only works if you don't even know what you're going to draw next turn in most cases. So like you have to do this, create the vigor, not necessarily knowing what you're going to get. Maybe you've got a V parked in an arsenal, I'll grant you that. But like, you see where I'm going here, right? Like everything's not necessarily flowy perfect. And to be clear, that's okay, right? Like this doesn't have to be a windmill slam card. We did get what we wanted from a certain point of view in that we got a yellow 0/3. It's not a charge card, but it kind of sets up other things if it lines up in the right way. Now, I kind of want to decide where I'm also warbling on is how many, because I said this earlier, I don't know that you want to run 2 of them, right? Or I should say, that's not what I said at all. I don't know that you want 2 of them in your hand at the same time, is what I mean. And I mean, again, you can always block. And to be fair, it can always charge. So, and it's a yellow card to that point. So maybe you do end up running 3 of these. It just, I don't know, if you get like a whole hand of like no charges or something, like, I don't know. Anyway, I'm very curious to see how this plays out. I'd love to hear. I know there's like at least 4 or 5 Boltyn fans out there somewhere. So let me know what you're thinking. I'd love your feedback. And you know what? Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being loyal to our Light Warrior here. And of course, my friends, go Commando.